and that's the story of his life.
Well, when you get four lifetime friends together, somebody in the group has to take the brunt of the conversation, the butt of the
Wood.
Good
jokes,
point.
the guy who's our target. And I'm not saying
Yeah.
his screen is frozen right now, but hopefully he'll come back and join us in a second. Wood.
Well, Wood is the goat of the verbal abuse of this group. There's no question
No
about that.
doubt about that.
He is. Somebody needs to text him to come back in, but I want to welcome you guys to episode 6 of Circle City Goats and Dogs. And we have taken you guys from when we were in wee wisdom in kindergarten in the 70s. And we've come all the way through in the first 5 episodes up to our college years. So Rufus and Maddox, and I think we got Shane Wood back with us. Welcome to episode 6. I think this may be our concluding conversation, much to the chagrin of our families, our mothers, who are actually the only ones really watching. How are you guys doing tonight? How's your week been? It's hump day or hump night.
We're doing great. Let's yield the floor to Shane Wood first. Oh, he's reconnecting.
He's
now having some problems, Bernard.
Is it Memorex or is it Wood?
Still no.
This is fabulous content for podcasting.
I mean, people have got to be sitting on the edge of their seats going.
Well, this is perfect for the topic. As we get older, now Wood can't communicate anymore.
Yeah, okay. It's perfect.
Well, hey Shane, turn on your hotspot for your cell phone. Get your kid to show you how to turn on your hotspot for your cell phone.
Poor Shane.
All right.
This will be
when he figures it out.
This will be a 3-guest episode.
That's right. Last time we left off, we had trashed a hotel room at Arnold's wedding. We played a massive wiffle ball game hours before my wedding in Houston. But we have not talked about how incredibly hot it was that August day in Opelika in the church. And I think that's where I want to start.
Oh my gosh.
Did you purposely, Rufus, this is for you, did you purposely turn the air conditioning off? What in the world? Because it was a little warm that day.
And it rained the night before. And so y'all didn't know that I was the night before when we were all going around to all the places, that I was taking a $50 bill, tearing it at half. And if y'all remember, I would always buy the first round wherever we went. And I gave half of the $50 bill to the bartender. And I said, whatever they buy, assure that mine is not alcohol. And then the other half of the 50 would come to you at the end of the night. So I did that in 3 or 4 places. So I was okay because y'all were trying hard. But the church, the Methodist church, the air conditioning went out. I think we had busted pants. We had split seams. We had it was awful. And the sad thing is, Bernard, I don't remember it being hot because I guess I was so nervous. Little known fact, V called me in the hotel 2 hours before our wedding and said, I love you, and I want you to know 2 things. One is I don't cook. I'm not my mama. And I thought, well, that'll change. Well, that hadn't changed. And number 2 was I don't believe in divorce, but I believe in murder. So if I hadn't heard her dad laugh in the background, I might not have showed up.
I got to ask, were those not settled issues before the 2-hour call, before the wedding nuptials?
I guess I was hopeful before that, but yeah, that's a true call, and she'll tell you that was the truth. And if I hadn't heard old Bill Mack laughter in the background, I might not have showed up.
Well, I know we had a fabulous celebration and things went well, and you guys are still together. So I suspect things have stayed between the lines all these,
I may be
all
scared of her. I may need to show the sign. Help me.
Well, one of the things I meant to bring up was the quick succession, and I think this happens in friend groups, the quick succession of how quickly guys get married, in friend groups. Rob, if I remember correctly, Rob got married in December of 92. I was in March of 93. You were the summer of 93.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And
August.
then, Chris, when was y'all's wedding? When was that?
Oh, I still haven't gotten married yet, Bernard. I'm pondering the concept.
Did you and
And
I guess you and Angie had that conversation? She doesn't believe in
we're,
marriage.
well,
She
we could
believes
be
in-
considered common law husband and wife, but it's funny. I was about to tell you to slow your roll there when you start saying the succession of marriages because there was a little bit of a break after Chris Lee's wedding, and Shane and I came in a little bit later. Angie and I got married in July of '97.
That's right. Because Sydney had already been born. She was born in
Correct.
May of 96. But I don't want to leave out, because this is very memorable still for me for many reasons, and y'all too, Phil's wedding in New Orleans. And I don't remember who was standing with the bridesmaid who passed out during remember, it was a full mass.
Yes.
And it was unbelievably hot, beautiful cathedral, beautiful church. But do y'all remember the bridesmaid? I don't remember who it was who hit the deck.
I don't remember who it was either. It was obviously one of Robin's friends, but I don't remember specifically which one. But that was that's a pretty terrifying moment watching that young lady pass out. She wasn't even the bride. I was like, why is she passing out? That makes no sense.
Don't lock. I mean, you guys remember me passing out at Tim Smith's funeral in right before our senior year. It's because don't lock your knees.
Don't lock your knees.
You got to move a little bit. Shane, when did you and Misty get married?
1999,
On the
September 11th.
Can she hear you forget that date? I'm just saying, Shane.
She texted me just now to test him. But welcome to the podcast, Shane. We really appreciate your attendance tonight.
I kept telling myself they can see the video, so when I throw this computer, they'll see it. I was like, I can't do that.
But
yes, Rufus, I know how to turn on a hotspot. Thank you very little.
Could have gone down in Facebook history tonight, Wood, if you'd have picked that computer up and chucked it. That'd have been.
That's true. I'm not.
I mean, we'd have had at least 3, 4, 5 people watch this episode at that.
Well, the descendants of Bib Gunner are watching right now, so I know it's blown up.
Yeah, that's weird. I got a letter from his attorney last week, Bernard. I need to talk to you about that later.
Well, I sent the letter, so I'm representing. But if you think about our post-college years, we're all in our early 20s, and you're either starting your career or your first jobs, or you're going to, like Maddox and I went to law school, and it's the busiest, craziest time of your young life, because all of these transitions, when in your mid 20s, most of us getting married, then kids followed not long after that. I know Jackson, I think, or Travis, I can't remember which boy is older of Rob's, but that was the first child in our immediate group, then Sydney, and then kids came after that.
Yeah.
But it could have been a very easy time period for us to lose track of each other, because there's only so many so many good brain cells you can use in a day, and your energy is just at nothing by the time you end of the day. But that's where I want to go with some of this. And I'll start with you, Shane, assuming you're not frozen again or asleep. All right. I'm sure when people listen to this on podcast, that frozen second right there is going to be excellent content.
Yeah.
We talked about
Crypto.
Shane, when did you and Misty, let's start here. When did you and Misty first meet?
We actually met at church not long after her father became the pastor here.
Okay. That doesn't really help us. What
But
age were you?
She was, well,
Man, he's squirming a little bit more.
You gotta maybe unpeel the onion. So first of all,
Yep.
I'm the oldest of you all. I think I was married last.
Mhm.
I was the oldest when they got married, the oldest, I have the youngest Maddox has the youngest child, but I have the younger children, I think.
Thanks, Shane. Appreciate it.
So, so Misty she is 8 years younger than me. So when we met, she was obviously I was
She was barely out of high school, right?
when we met, she was still in high school, actually. We of course did not
Oh,
date.
not even that.
I was kidding, Shane. I was totally. Oh my god,
We did not
this
date
conversation's
until,
going downhill fast.
we did not date until she was out of college.
Oh, okay.
So we met like I said, when she was younger. That was probably early 90s, maybe.
And then you guys got married in 99.
Yes.
And really was that, I don't remember, but it was September 11th of 99.
We had it first, by the way. It was September 11th of 99 before it became infamous in 2001.
Yeah, but you guys have a nice memory to remember on that day. So
We do. We have a great memory.
That's different.
Yes.
And I have several friends whose birthdays are on 9/11. And so they try to flip the script that day.
Well, and we kind of, I won't say we joke, but my birthday is actually on
I know.
Pearl Harbor Day.
Yeah.
We always thought that. We always knew that was the bomb of the day.
Boom. Boom. But here's what I want to ask you guys, and we'll start with Shane or stay with Shane for a minute.
Okay.
During that time period, it's tough. You know, we all had cell phones, but there was no social media at the time in the 90s. But it was not nearly, at least for me, I was not big into texting and it was really more emails that from time to time, or I'd just call and say, hey, I'm coming to Dothan. And then that's how we would connect.
Yeah.
It wasn't like daily texts or constant communications from my end, just because that's just how busy we were in life. And I know there were periods of time, there'd be weeks, not months, but weeks where we weren't in contact. But that's the toughest time to me to maintain those out of town friendships. So I don't know if that was your experience, Shane, or if you remember those days, but we're just so dadgum busy. You know,
I mean, it's
your career.
Earlier in your career, I was, working long hours, and then you fit in time, just to spend time with this person, your significant other, and it just it gets, you're so busy, there's just not time to squeeze it in. And when you do try to get together, you guys are all have the same thing going on, so trying to find a spot on the calendar, it's still difficult now. Whenever we all try to get together, it's hard to nail it down. But yeah, it was just so busy at that phase of our lives. Just made it tough.
It did. Now I'll shift over to either of the Chris's or other Chris, however you want to call yourselves. We did have a trip to New Orleans, and I don't have the picture available, the socially acceptable picture. I'll post that tomorrow. But I was trying to remember what year that was, because that's been 20 plus years ago to my recollection. Either of you guys remember? Because I know there's some awesome stories from that trip that we can tell. I just couldn't place the date or the year that we went.
I don't remember the specific year.
I don't either.
Well, I know I had Sydney and Emily. They were youngsters. And this was before 2007. So I know that. I want to say it was like 2001, maybe 2002 time period. The way I can figure things out in my head is how old were my children or how many children at the time. Sometimes I can narrow it down that way.
Yeah.
I can't remember the exact year. I came in late that night, flew in late that night and joined everybody. But yeah, I want to say early 2000s, maybe.
Let's just call
It was the only time that I had a little money, if you remember. That's the only reason. And I say little, it wasn't much, but yeah.
I'm going to say it was between 01 and 04, something like that. But
Yeah.
Rufus, you got to talk about roulette.
Well, it was the craps table.
I'm sorry.
So well, you remember the first night we went and played Caribbean Stud that night. Oh, wait, you didn't make it that night. Chris and I went and played Caribbean Stud because I came in late. Flew in late. And I had Chris to my left playing Caribbean Stud, paying for him to play because the second hand was winning. And remember, Chris, we won, I don't know, we won a couple $100 that night playing uh, Caribbean Stud. But it was the next night when I liked the craps table, and the craps table was live, and everybody was ready to go, which was no big deal. Everybody's ready to go. And I took whatever chips I had in my pocket. I think, was it Phil or Chris standing there? And I said, well, I brought all this, so I'm going to put it on the pass line of the craps table. And I remember the guy threw the dice. It hit my hand as I was putting the chips on the table. And the croupier said, you're out. You're not in this roll. And the guy rolled a 7. So those of you already know, if the point's already made, you roll 7, everybody loses. And the guy started to rake all the money. And I was like, no, no, no. He told me I was out. He was out. So I had to get the croupier to say I was out. And then the very next roll was a 7. And so if you play the craps table, 7 coming out is an automatic win. Doubled everything that was on the pass line. And it was enough to pay for my entire trip plus some. So I was lucky. Yeah.
Well, you know, those are the best kind of wins, the unexpected ones, the oops that anyway, I just remember I want to say
We took a trip to Biloxi one time too. Before that or after?
Oh, that was Chris Maddox's pre-wedding.
Okay, that's right.
I don't want to remember that.
That's
That was a
why I
rip-roaring-
remember it so well.
That was a rip-roaring time, wasn't it?
yeah, because I think I flew to Gulfport to come to that.
I still have the scar. Thanks, Shane.
Yep.
Let's go
Not
to
many people can fall going upstairs.
Exactly, with a
few.
glass
That's
in your
right,
hand.
that's right.
That takes some talent.
you know, one of the things that I've always appreciated about you guys is regardless of who contacts who and wants to chit chat, there's always something new to learn. There's always something new to share. And it can be mundane stuff, but I think this is what's the beauty of the friendships. It wouldn't matter to me if Rufus, if you read out of the phone book to me. It would not matter, Maddox, if you had a recipe and you wanted to share. I mean, neither of those things have ever happened, but you get my point. It's just kind of hanging around each other. And that's what makes the 20s when we were so busy starting out with new family life and new jobs. And you're, as Shane said, you don't have any other time. And so unfortunately, your friendships kind of go down, but then you breathe in a little bit. We get into our 30s and 40s and we can kind of see where things lie. The dust has settled. We were able to start taking trips again and hanging out. And, you know, we've been able to do more of that the last couple of years just because we're in different stages of life. But tell me if this resonates with any of you guys or all of you guys. It wouldn't matter if we hadn't seen each other in 6 months or a year or 2 years. All Rufus has to do is bring up one topic or say one thing about a particular event. And doesn't it flood you back to that specific time period and just create all kind of fun going forward because it's those shared events.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
that shared
Yeah.
time.
And we were last summer we were at or 2 summers ago actually, we were at Chris Lee's farm in outside of Opelika and just sitting on a porch at night, just talking about those things that we've all experienced together and just having belly laughs. I mean, hard to catch your breath, belly laughs at some of these stories. And of course, our families are like, oh, they're the most god awful stories we've ever heard, blah, blah, blah. But we continue to crack up at them. And that's what kills me. I mean, just watch Angie or Vera or, you know, any of these wives that just shake their head and roll their eyes at these stories. But they still just trigger us to the point of hilarity. And then of course, like any good story, it leads into another one that's funnier than the one before. And it just gets, before you know it, 3 hours have gone by and you're just sitting outside on a porch in the middle of nowhere, cracking up, having just an unbelievably great time. And that's you're right, Bernard. And that's the beauty of it. We cannot see each other for a year or two and just get together and sit down and it just
Pick it
starts.
right
It's like we
back
pick
up.
up. We never lost our place. It's
You
just
know,
I don't know. It's just it's good stuff.
That's why when they were doing this show, I sit here and laugh just arbitrarily because I'll remember the memory, but then one person will have said something just riding in the car or something, and that memory will come back. And you can't always share it, but somebody made a statement. A lot of times it was Phil or Robbie, though, I must say. that memory will come and I just start laughing. Wherever I just start laughing. And all of you've had those. I mean, there's sayings you guys say too that I just make me laugh.
last summer, after going to the Braves game, and we go up to the lake house north of Atlanta, and I don't know if it's 2, 3 in the morning, we're sitting around the fire, and I don't remember the topic, but Arnold had me laughing so hard I snorted.
Because it was torturing me. That's why you were laughing, Bernard. It was torturing me.
For everybody
Shane-
watching, Shane made the mistake of going to bed first that night, and that is the cardinal no.
I was going to say, don't you dare go to bed first. But Shane, that's why we love you, buddy.
You must pay the price if you go to bed first. It's just an unwritten rule.
Now, I'm sure I thought Rufus was in his room as well. I mean, I didn't think I was
I
the
wasn't
only
first
one.
though. I wasn't first, and I came out swinging. That's all I can tell you.
Yeah, the problem with waking Rufus up is if it's 3 a.m, he's probably walking out in his boxers with a pistol of some.
Yeah,
some caliber.
there's a firearm somewhere, so you better be careful.
That's why I didn't mind bunking in that damp basement that had water everywhere, just so I'd be a little bit of.
Yeah, we never did share that with you, did we,
Hey,
Bernard? We had to clean up a swamp when you left.
But you didn't see what I did. You saw the towels. That shower just flooded and I couldn't stop it. And then I couldn't turn the water off in the shower. And I'm like, I'm stuck. I'm not going under this house to look for the water source. You know, as a homeowner, you start thinking of these things. But imagine if we'd have rented this house in our 20s, I'd have been, I have no idea what to do.
Yeah, we all had to dry off with a washcloth that night because we had to use every towel to clean up your mess.
And you loved every minute of it.
And all we can think about is this the water that Bernard showered in? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Bernard
and
looked at all
the
that
fact
water.
that the fact that you missed those horrible Bubba burgers that we made and had to eat too.
Look, you guys knew why I had to leave. I would have much rather had the Bubba burgers.
I agree. I know.
No,
absolutely.
thank you. Guys, I got to give some shout outs. We got Tammy Fulford DuPont is here out of Connecticut, I think. Hey, Tammy. Good to see you. We got Dr. Rob Tibbs from Oklahoma.
Oh,
City.
Lord.
Good, Rob.
What up,
Splinter.
Tibbs? We got Carlisle Morris is in the house. Welcome.
Carlisle.
Good to
Look,
see you
Carlisle.
guys. And we got my Emily. Emily, don't you sweat that, baby. It is everything worked out okay. They still love you. And now
I have to say, I have seen Ramona Stanley twice in the last 2 weeks. Both times at Walmart, I'll say. But she looks great, by the way. And we sat and talked. And I told her about this show. And when I gave her the title, she just kind of scratched her head like, what does that mean? I said, honestly, Bernard will have to answer that question. Where the goats and dogs came from, that's for him.
I thought I addressed it in the first, but I'll address it again
Maybe
now.
you did, but she's doing great.
Awesome. Goats and dogs is referencing to our best of times and our worst of times, but we're together. And speaking of that, we've been through it all together. You know, some of us in the group have suffered the worst of what you can imagine.
Yeah.
But we've also, on the flip side, experienced the greatest of joys. And you guys have all been there for me, or been there for others at different times. And not that this should be a love fest tonight, but it's just our way of sharing these things. And that's why we've shared these stories for 6 weeks now, and just still continue to have happy times and laughs. Oh, we got, hey, Donna Gormley, it's Sunday. How you doing? Good to see you. Yeah, a bunch of trouble right here. 3 of these guys are nothing but trouble in this group. I'll tell you that.
Pick your three.
Yeah, just pick
Pick
3.
three, and yeah.
Yeah, it's the 3 not talking right now, but that's okay. But here's the other great thing about currently, because we've gotten back into a routine of having our annual guys weekends, which include Arnold and maybe others at times, but we already have our next one on the books. And that's just something I really look forward to. Just like anytime I can put a trip or an experience with you guys or friends or family on my calendar, that's always a good thing. I think that's always a good thing to look forward to. And it's just I don't know, and now we're all in our 50s. We've all settled into our careers for quite a while. Our children are minimum of high school, some are well out of school now, and they're settling into their lives. So here's where I want to go with this. And I'm going to start with you, Rufus, because you still got yours at home, and you have yet to go through all of what Maddox and I have in part gone through. At some point, they leave the nest. And I know that's not something that you and V want to think about, but it's coming. It's inevitable. She's going to college. But and the dynamic, hopefully, like she has a 1.3 and hadn't scored. Anyway. It's easy to get aggravated with our high school age children when they're home. Here's my question for you. Do you ever catch yourself before you have that difficult conversation, or you and Vera figure out how to deal with whatever the topic is? And I'm not asking for the topic. You ever reflect back to your experiences and figure out, here's how I need to address this. Is it a do as I say or do as I did or don't do as I did approach?
Oh my gosh. I mean, yeah, with an 18-year-old right now, it's like arguing with yourself. And she's a great kid. She's doing great in school, but you can't help but see, I mean, pediatrics is what I do for a living, but you can't help but go and say, don't make the mistakes I made. Don't do the stupid things I did. But at the same time, we learn so much from some of the stuff we did, right? I mean, you learn from that. Your experiences come from that. Your personality comes from that. But it's crazy watching her argue with her mom sometimes, and you're trying to go, don't do that. That is not in your best interest. You're going to lose this battle, but it's also fun watching them grow up. They're going, and right now she's dating a young man who seems to be really nice, and like I said, he wants to shake my hand every time he leaves, and that's kind of fun, and seeing there's still some of that out there. But yeah, it's good. It's just crazy.
Maddox, you got 4 girls.
God love it.
Yes.
Didn't we figure out we have 1 boy and everybody else has girls?
Yes.
How do you not get into the middle of that argument or those discussions with mama when they are topics that you have no business addressing sometimes?
Yeah. Well, as I tell anybody who ever asks me, I live in a very estrogen rich environment, right? So
even the pets at home are girls.
Well, we do have a dog that's a guy, but
oh, amen.
He's kind of a half guy, if you know what I mean. So, bless his heart.
His mark has gone way up.
So with the first kid, I thought I would, first of all, Bernard, you and I are attorneys, and Chris Lee by himself can probably out argue the 2 of us if he's in the right mood. And so, I thought I would help Angie a couple of times with some of the conversations with our oldest child, and figured out pretty quickly that some of these topics I have no business offering an opinion on. So if it's one of those topics, I stay out of the way of it. If it's something that I feel like I can speak from a little bit of experience and offer something positive, then I certainly do that as well. But yeah, for the most part, what Chris Lee just said is, we learned so many lessons the hard way growing up. You want to tell them not to do it the way I did it, because what you don't want them to find out is what you did to learn the lesson, right? You don't want them to know about the bad choices you made as a teenager. So you try to, sometimes you use, at my house, we'll use the old, one of my buddies in high school did X, Y, and Z.
The bus.
Oh,
So
okay.
that's funny.
Yeah.
Wait,
So I don't want you to, I don't want
is
you to
that
suffer his
code?
fate.
Is one of my buddies code for Chris Lee? I'm just asking.
I always wonder why
Usually-
the girls look at me
Yeah.
funny when I come
Yeah,
over.
yeah, well, that's why they're so drawn to you, actually, Chris Lee. So, but yeah. So Bernard, we're still in that. We got 1 foot with 3 out the door, and then we've got 1 foot. We've still got a 15-year-old here in the house, and so she's in 9th grade, and she'll finish in 3 more years. So we've got her for, well, really, I say for another year, because as you know, when they turn 16 and they get a car, they're basically gone. I mean, they're not. Or my other 3 were, at 6. Now they live here. They spend the night here when they're that age, but that's, you don't see them a whole lot anymore. And Shane's got that same thing. He's got 1 still at home, and he's got 1 off at college. So Shane's starting to get a little experience with his first year of his daughter being at Troy this year. So he's getting a little bit of it. But
Yeah, I've had to on a few occasions ask Maddox's opinion, or like, hey, what about this, or how do you? But also love as they grow up. Well, honestly, when they were younger, when they would do something or say something, and when you realize, oh, that's one of my bad traits they picked up. You don't want to say that. You want to look at Misty and go, hey, they got that from you. But now their personalities have developed, and they handle something, and then you look at each other and they got that from one of us, or that's one of the things they learned from us.
If it's a good thing, it came from me. If it's a bad thing, it came from her. That's all I'm saying.
But you know what's the beautiful thing is when you see things in their personalities, it didn't come from either parent. That's them.
Yeah.
And that's just the product of the parenting and everything. But here's the sad reality. And I was just listening to all 3 of you guys. The children of today, our kids, can't do a lot of those goofy things that we did in our childhood. The world is just different. And I hate to sound like the old guy, the get off my lawn mentality, but you can't. The world is not nearly as innocent or as safe, in my opinion. Playing in the woods. Well, granted, there's no more woods because everything's developed, but we'd be gone for hours. No cell phone.
They know. How did our parents know where anybody was? They rode
didn't.
around the neighborhood and they found the bikes and they were in somebody's front yard, right? I mean, you couldn't do that now. And the biggest argument, social media, which I'm not a fan of. Here we are on social media, but with the kids. But what's the biggest argument to get them a phone when they're 13, 14? I was looking for my kid at 14. It was safety.
Yeah.
So.
That's what we talked about with social media. They know everything when it happens instantly. We tell ours, we had to wait till you go to school on Monday to hear, oh, guess what happened over the weekend? And then by then the story had grown, but they're hearing it instantly and they know everybody that's there. It's just like you say, it's totally different for them.
And don't you dare try to tell them something you think you've scooped them on. They already knew about it way ahead of you, buddy. Always.
They were waiting for you to tell them that you knew is what it boils down to.
One of my theories has always been is never ever underestimate what your children already know.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
And never make the statement, my child would never do that.
Well, your children,
all our parents made that statement.
Yeah, because all our parents would have said that, bless their hearts.
One of the things that I do miss because we're so spread out is our children don't collectively know each other very well. They've been around each other just a hair here or there, but very little. In fact, some of, like I know my girls have not met some of the kids. but maybe we'll figure that out one day, and we'll have to fix that. But I think that and as many times I know that my daughters have heard all of these stories, or they're hearing some of them for the first time when they listen and watch this. I know that y'all's children as well just roll your eyes at, oh my God, I got to hear this crap again. But isn't that part of the rite of passage of being a child?
Absolutely. I will say, Chris's children and my children have heard so many of the stories that it's maybe a little embarrassing, but yes. So we've sat around at Chris's house many nights. Shane's been there to get to know, and I will say it's fortunate. What was fortunate is our wives and daughters actually made a trip to go to a concert together. That was really special. It's been really special with my.
Yeah, that was cool. I bet they enjoyed that.
They did. I don't remember who they saw, or they went to a concert,
But here's the sad thing as we get a little older. It's when your children are correcting you on what actually happened in the particular story. That's when you got to be concerned. No, didn't happen that. Here's what happened, because they've heard it so many times.
not that we would ever exaggerate anything. I don't know.
No, like I said in the very beginning of this series, all of these stories have a grain of truth in them. It's just over time, some of the truths get a little far-fetched or a little stretched. But there's always the initial kernel of truth that starts each of these stories.
Now, I will say, Bernard, we started off talking a little bit about kind of after college and how everybody went their own ways. And I want to share and this is going to be a shout out to y'all, my privilege, in that, I didn't exactly know what I was going to be right after college. So I kind of had some interim jobs, and I had the fortune to live with you. Chris stayed also. I lived with Chris in the same apartment. I lived with your brother Robbie. So when we talked about how we all kind of went our own separate ways, I was the one guy that actually got y'all more than you probably got each other. And that meant a lot to me because, being able to be together during that time was amazing. And we had a lot of fun. You met Karen, and one of the things I remember, Bernard, when y'all got married, you invited Vera and I over all the time to have dinner, and that was special because we were in Birmingham. So that, I want to say that was kind of cool that we were together during that time frame, even while we were young.
I'll never forget going back to college age, Karen's first trip to Auburn for one of those party weekends.
God love her.
And I think she had met maybe Maddox. I can't remember who she had and hadn't met, but she had not met Rick Bittner. And the very first person she meets, I'm not going to repeat what he said, but he made an unbelievable impression on her. At first, she was offended, but as the night went on, she grew to really appreciate Rick. And they hung out, and they had a good time together while we were all there that weekend. She loved you guys and loved nothing more than to see me hanging out and us all getting together in those fun times. Those are some of my favorite core memories from that time.
Yeah, that's good stuff. I can't believe you actually brought her to Auburn, to 234 South Dean. That's a bold move by you, my friend.
Yeah, that was a risk.
Truth be told, like most things in my life during those years, when she said we were doing something, yes, ma'am, let's go. And that was her idea.
As we covered last week, that just meant she got to listen to a lot of Bobby Brown on Friday night and Saturday night in New Edition.
Did.
And she probably said, yeah, and I'm driving, Bernard, so get in.
She always drove. She knew that.
And it wasn't because you were drinking, it was because she wanted to go faster.
Exactly.
Look, I tried for years to get the speed limit reduced down to 42 miles an hour.
I can't believe you didn't successfully manage to do it. I'm shocked. I used to try to tell Shane and Robbie and Phil that we should charge cover to our parties at 234 South Dean, because by 11 o'clock at night, the music was blaring and the whole place was dancing. I mean,
Yeah.
it was nobody showed up and stood around at. I mean, it was a straight up throwdown on the weekends.
It was a
They were
straight
a
up
good
fire
time.
code violation.
That was what made it so fun, Bernard.
Yeah. But you know, I know there was a little bit of property destruction, but not a lot because Shane wouldn't stand for that.
We were scared of Shane.
But all in all, you know, that's one of the beautiful things about college time period of how frankly, how innocent all of that was. Nobody got hurt. Nobody got thrown in jail or busted or any of that stuff. It was just, and we, you know, those pictures, none of which I'm going to show here, those pictures just mean the world to me and us, because as soon as you pull up one of Arnold dancing on, you know, or the Papasan chair of all of us, that's what's so great about it.
Absolutely.
Those pictures are actually framed in my house. So that's how much they mean to me.
Yeah. Yeah. And after tonight, I'm going to post a couple of the acceptable post-college pictures that we keep referencing. I don't want to mess up what we got going on here.
Well, let me be perfectly clear. We weren't that bad. We make it sound like there's so many things that we did that were so bad. We weren't that bad.
No, we
we got
weren't.
to leave the listener hanging. We got to leave them thinking they want more
Not
episodes.
like anybody did any prison terms, Maddox, but it's okay.
I look. Sometimes you got to plead the fifth, right?
Well, unless the city detective comes by and wants to know about these signs.
And he starts the conversation by saying, "Just want you to know your friend threw you straight under the bus."
Yeah.
So
There's no ill
anything
blood
else
there.
you want to add, just go right ahead.
Look, as we've gone through, I thanked you guys with the diving board a few years later. So just
It all worked out.
we've got just a couple of more minutes before we conclude this series, and I've really enjoyed all of these episodes. And just again, anytime we get together is a good time for me. So I welcome it at any point in time. I know that Shane has tolerated these 6 episodes, so I'm giving the MVP award right now
Oh,
to Royce Shane Wood, number 17. Let's give it up. Let's give it
Yeah,
up.
yeah.
Wood.
Staying up. Yeah.
Absolutely, that's impressive, Shane. I know it's difficult for a guy your age.
yes, it
I
is.
almost questioned Bernard. You said we're in our 50s. I was like, is Shane in his 50s?
Yeah, I'm still there, but not
Well,
getting closer.
Rufus, that's why I set when we're doing these. I didn't want to wait any longer before we got together. But here's where I want to kind of conclude. I want to bring this back to Dothan. I want to bring this back to our hometown where a lot of our core childhood and adolescent memories are. And I want to start with you, Shane. You've lived in Dothan almost your entire life. You're raising your family. You have your work in Dothan. Dothan obviously has changed dramatically since we were children.
Bernard,
Y'all
that's
still there?
just be me.
You still with me? I think
Maddox
Maddox
just froze. Oh my gosh. Now he's just randomly talking.
Yeah. Shane, I assume you can hear me, but
I
here's
can.
what I want you to be able to share with us is Dothan kind of evolved as you've grown, or is it still the old Dothan in your mind, even though there's so much change? I don't know if this is making sense, but I kind of want you to put in context about how what Dothan has meant to you over these years as you have lived as long as you have in Dothan.
Oh wow, that's tough. I mean, Dothan has
No.
meant everything to me. I mean, it's been one of the best things in my life. So many people, well, to you guys, went off, and just life takes you in certain, marriages, jobs, those things take you away. I just felt like this is where I needed to be and wanted to be. And yes, Dothan has changed a lot, but it still has that same feeling to me. The changes are really changes everywhere, but there's things that obviously things are more convenient. There's roads now that are it's so easily to get other places, and you think, gosh, I remember when this was this, or this was a 2-lane road, or you had to go this way. But and then you see things, or like a building, being in construction, sometimes a building that's been around forever will be taken down and changed, and Dothan has focused a lot on trying to keep that history in place of older buildings and things in the downtown area, and so much. And it's uh, we still have these great hometown mayors that have served, and people that have tried to keep Dothan, keep that historical part of Dothan, but then grow and uh, you know be a city of the future as well. But and I've tried to share that with with my family, my kids especially, and share memories. And I've loved the fact that we still go to the football games at Rip Hughes Stadium, and they get to experience that, and I can share. And Westgate Park and the things that have in Solomon Park, so many places that meant so much to me and still do. The memories are still there, and let them know, because I used to love going to visit where my grandparents lived and hearing their stories, and then hearing about their life and realize, oh, they weren't always an old person. They had a life,
Yeah.
and this is the city they lived in, and they did cool stuff uh, that I can still do. But it's hard to even put all that into words, how much Dothan's meant to me.
No, those are beautiful words, and I was hoping that's what I'd hear from you, Shane. Thank you for
And
that.
I hope when people come back, like you guys that come and visit, that have left, that they feel that when they come back, that yes, it's changed, but there is, still that, and like we've shared, everybody doesn't have the greatest memories
Yeah.
of those situations, but we do, and I'm just thankful for that.
Well,
I
thank you,
miss
brother.
the ability to, being in Nashville, we have restaurants everywhere, but didn't David Hogan have a restaurant I never got to eat at?
Still does. Still does.
Does, and I would give anything to be able to do that. And Chris Bradshaw has restaurants. I think in the bigger cities, we miss that because although there are, I'm not going to say there aren't hometown cities or hometown restaurants or businesses, it makes a difference when it's people and the joke is you spent younger life trying to get out of there than the rest of your life trying to get back home. And that really has set with me now that I've had, my father died and stuff like that. I would give it, I like where I am, I like my job and that sort of thing. But gosh, would it be nice to come home? Yeah.
Well, Rufus, with V being from Opelika and the type of job that you ultimately have had for so long, that type of job probably doesn't exist in Dothan, or if there is, there's only one opportunity, one person. But you're right. It may be that you left Dothan physically, but maybe mentally or spiritually, you still are in Dothan, particularly with Mary Julia still there, and all these core memories. Absolutely. I'm not trying to get all weepy on us, but that's just kind of where we've got.
Well, I will say I got to tell this. This just happened today. This is organic. We were talking about Nancy Miller earlier. Catherine Hanson, one of my mother's best friends were Connie Miller and Norma Hanson, and Catherine actually took Connie and Norma to see my mother today. And I can only imagine the amount of riotness that happened at Grove Park today with those three ladies having just the time of their lives. It's kind of like us. And they sat for hours, having a good time. So I guess what I'm saying is I look forward to seeing y'all in the nursing home. I don't know where I was going with that, but I just
Don't put us there yet. Don't put us there yet.
I thought you guys had already put me there. I thought I was
You
already
got an
just
there.
appointment
Wood.
next week, Wood.
We're
We're glad to
joining
tell
you
you.
later.
All right, wait. One insult at the time. Maddox, go.
Well, I was going to say Shane's got an appointment next week, so well, I'll run you over there, Wood. It'll be okay. It's not going to hurt a bit.
Pudding Pop, you're gonna be fine. You're gonna be just fine. All right, Maddox, we'll come to you. The question is, you've lived in Dothan your whole life.
Thanks, Bernard.
Angie, may have had opportunities or discussions about moving to other cities at different times, or maybe not. But you're raising your family. You've got your practice there. You've been there. You know Dothan like Shane knows Dothan. It is your life down there, and that's not an easy question to answer. But my question is, what has life in Dothan as opposed to any other city you might have chosen? What's it meant to you? What's it meant? The evolution of this city and how important growth and different things. It's still not a great question, but Shane and Rufus answered it beautifully. So that's why I'm throwing it to you to just get your input about Dothan.
Sadly, my connection was temporarily suspended, so I didn't hear what either one of those guys said. So if I repeat them, please excuse me. But I will say this, and I think I said it before on one of the earlier podcasts. Dothan is a great place to raise a family, right? It's a great place to be married and raise a family. If you're in your 20s or 30s, you do not want to be single in Dothan, Alabama. It is not for that crowd. Although I will say some of the heavy hitter business guys in Dothan are making a push to try to attract younger couples with small children back to Dothan. And that'd be a whole nother episode to talk about that. But so I like Dothan just because it's it's funny how you still run into people on a regular basis that and then there's some people you see like once every 10 years and you're like, good gosh, you only live a mile away from me. How do I never see you ever? But when you see them, you catch up and like Shane seeing Ramona Stanley in 2 times in 2 weeks. I mean, that's just kind of how it works sometimes in Dothan. It's the smallest big city, and I know it's not huge compared to where some of these other folks live, but there's 70,000 people in Dothan, and that's there used to be 2 major high schools, and it's big enough that you can not see people for a long time, and but it's small enough that you still do see a lot of people on the regular if you're just out and about. So it's worked out well. It's worked out really well for me. It was like I said, great place to raise 4 girls, and there are a couple other towns I would consider living in now. I would consider living in Auburn. I think as a city, obviously it was a great school. Shane and I went to school there, and you and Rufus showed up many weekends to hang out with us. But it's a great city. They've done a really nice job with the city of Dothan or Auburn growing it. And then I've always liked I like the Fairhope area also. I think that's a really cool part of the state of Alabama. But other than those 2 areas, I everything I know and everybody, the business and your friends, and it's just Dothan. I mean, it's just where we are, for better or for worse, right? It's hard to look back and go, boy, I would have changed this and gone here or gone there.
Right.
But I don't have any regrets at all about raising my family here in Dothan.
The biggest complaint that I've held ever since I moved to Birmingham in August of '94 is that I feel so landlocked compared to where Dothan is situated to the Florida Panhandle.
Yeah.
I can't get down there often enough. And you guys know it's a 4, sometimes a 5-hour drive, no matter if you're going to Gulf Shores or Panama City or in between. Now, the trade-off is we have an international airport. So in theory, our flights are, easy. It's not Atlanta. You usually still have to go through Atlanta if you want to go anywhere directly. But coming from Houston County, Alabama, you guys know this, from my childhood, and Karen from Houston, Texas, Dothan was a little too small. Houston was a little too big.
Sure.
So we found Birmingham to be a pretty good compromise. And
absolutely.
Birmingham's been home for coming on 30 years. And you said something a minute ago. It's I think you said this, the biggest, smallest town. Birmingham is the other way. It is it's a big town, but you'll run into people that live across. I don't know how this happens. You can go to a grocery store that's not one of my routine, and I'll run into somebody from Dothan in the grocery store. Or, I mean, it's strange how that happened.
Yeah.
But it is, I loved my youth in Dothan. Lots of fabulous memories, most notably due to three of y'all. And you're right, Shane, as Shane said earlier, not everybody has great childhood memories. And for whatever their personal reasons, I do have excellent childhood memories. And Dothan has always held a special place in my heart, even though most of my family is no longer there. Everybody is kind of spread out.
I'll say this, Bernard. One of the good things that I do like about Dothan is you still keep in contact. And so, an example of I needed to move some things, right? I needed to move some stuff personally and needed a moving company. And, I reached out to Chris. He's like, call John Coleman. I called John Coleman, out of our class, and he said he handed it off to his people, and we had the most wonderful experience of moving stuff. So, it's a connection of all the people that I would have no problem calling before I'm going to call somebody out of the phone book or an ad or, even recommendations. I will defer to my people from Dothan before I will defer to people from somewhere else.
Absolutely.
And I'll just say, I'm always amazed, like when we have traveled, we'll be somewhere, Washington or just numerous places. And of course, one of the kids will wear a shirt or I'll wear an Auburn shirt or somebody will wear a shirt and somebody else will say, oh, and you start a conversation, oh, we're from such and such. And it's, I mean, very close to Dothan. It may be Dothan. We've been places and we look up and like, we're so far from home, but then these people are from Dothan right here. And I'm sure that happens with other cities as well, but it's really weird and funny the way it happens.
Yeah, that you go halfway across the country just to meet up with people who know your people.
Exactly. And because of where we are and the route to get to the beach, so many people have to pass through.
They either love coming through Dothan or they absolutely hate it. And
I can see that
because there's good
they
food.
Don't like it.
Huh?
They don't like it because Shane, I'm going on record, Shane is responsible for the circle and the design of the circle. I'm waiting for his internet to freeze.
I am never on the circle. I'm cut through town guy. I mean, I'm always, Maddox and I've talked about this. We avoid the major highways.
I'm saying you're that's your project. That's your work. You're doing the work of the circle. Again, to throw Shane under the bus because he's not doing that. For everybody knows.
For anybody that hasn't been to Dothan out there in a while, you need to understand the Ross Clark Circle, where Highway 231 comes in from Troy and Ozark, all the way to where 231 leaves out by Dobbs Barbecue. That whole section of the Ross Clark Circle is being repaved, and it is a miserable experience to be at in Dothan. So when Shane says we find any way we can go to get somewhere and avoid the circle, that's exactly correct. I mean,
But is it not still under construction too?
Oh, yeah,
I mean, my gosh.
It's the deadline to have it finished is not until like the fall of 2025. So it's a full 2-year project, and they're adding service roads, and it's chaos.
2 years. It's been longer than 2 years. Somebody's lying to you.
Is this a product of
growing to be like one of you large cities that you guys live in?
Well, I was going to ask, is this a product of growth? Is this growing?
Yeah, it is, and to accommodate the traffic. So,
well, when I stayed with you, Shane, when we went to the induction of the Wiregrass Sports Hall of Fame last summer for Bubba and Coach Griffin, you took me on a route that I didn't even know those roads existed. we again avoided the circle, but we're going through areas that used to be undeveloped.
Yeah.
And I trusted you knew where you were going, and we got there. But anyway, that's just me being gone that long. Fellas, I think we've come to a pretty good spot for this episode in this series of Circle City Goats and Dogs. And I cannot thank you enough for your time, for your friendship, from the stories and all of the above. So from my heart, thank you, boys.
Well, thanks for getting us all together, Bernard. I know this is your thing and you do a great job at it, but I appreciate the time and effort you put in and dragging me into this.
Keeping them away.
I'm
Misty,
I want to say I'm sorry for not bringing more information about the Miss Becky show. That's my one failure for this whole series. But
hey,
she
Shane,
had her
thank
chance.
Miss-
Sorry.
let's just say thank Misty for keeping you awake during this time frame.
Yeah, that.
Shane, just remember, Shane, it's much easier to prove something existed that actually existed than to prove that something existed that never existed. So, that's all I'm gonna say.
And
Yeah.
Shane, you have my word that if you ever come up with some proof, episode 7 will be dedicated to you and that show.
If I ever
Absolutely.
get around, yeah, I'll try to make that happen. I'm not making any promises though.
We'll call it the wheelchair special, and we'll bring Miss Becky out and hers, and then we'll wheel Shane out and his at the same time. It'll be fantastic.
Man, it'll be our version of my cousin, Weekend at Bernie's, won't it?
Oh my gosh.
Well, fellas, we're going to sign off for now, and y'all hang on with me after we sign off. But thank you all. We've had so many people to comment, to pop in for a few minutes. This has just been awesome. But thank you again for hanging in for 6 episodes of Circle City Goats and Dogs. You guys have a good night.
Bye, everybody.